Hi, friends and neighbors. This is Becky, Tuesday night, and just wanted to come and talk to you a little bit about one of the great apostles, Paul. Paul was known as one of the most prolific writers of the New Testament, writing most of them. He was extremely smart. He debated with people of all walks of life, and he put himself in great danger over and over again because he had a mission. He had Jesus on his heart, and he wanted to make sure he let as many people as possible know. But Paul wasn't always like that. He was previously known as Saul, who was one of the greatest Pharisees, at least he felt so. He had trouble with pride, and he referred to himself later as he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He knew all the laws, he knew all the rules, and he was going to make sure every single person knew as much as he did and followed as well as he did. He was so prideful that he saw it kind of as his personal job to go throughout Israel and get rid of as many people who follow that heretic Jesus as he possibly could. And he didn't just like, okay, you got a chance to move out of town. No, he was going to follow the old rules of the Old Testament, and that if they followed some God other than Yahweh, they could get stoned. And he was going to make sure that got done because he heard of this Jesus, and let's just say he'd only heard of him and knew Jesus stands on a lot of things. And he's like, no, we're getting rid of anybody that has anything to do with him. And in fact, when he first really got called by Jesus, when Jesus first blew that introductory bubble to say, hey, I'm going to get to know you and you're going to get to know me, this was right after he had just finished helping out in the martyrdom of Stephen, one of the first martyrs noted in the New Testament. In fact, he was so much involved in it that, he didn't throw at least many of the stones, if any. He stood there and he watched everybody's cloaks while they did the job of killing a big follower of Jesus. And we kind of catch on tonight in Acts 9, 1-9, where Jesus just got done with that, and he had that fire in his belly, and boy, he had a job, and he was going to do it. So it says, meanwhile, Saul, still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples, he went to the high priest, and I got to get help again, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground, and he heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Who are you, Lord? Saul asked. I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. He replied, Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. The men traveling with Saul stood there speechless. They heard the sound but did not see anyone. Saul got up from the ground, but when he opened his eyes, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand into Damascus. For 3 days he was blind and did not eat or drink anything. When Jesus wants to get your attention, sometimes he will go to great lengths, especially if he thinks there's something you really can do for the kingdom. Now, there were a lot of people in the Old Testament that we saw that God also got their attention pretty quickly. We have Moses, we have Abraham, Joshua, all these people that spent years and years getting to the point where God could really use them. And Paul had spent a lot of years on the other team, but God kind of turned things around pretty quickly for him. He sent him into Damascus, and God had already talked to some other people there who they wanted to mentor Paul. They wanted because he didn't just pick Paul and like, okay, now that you met me, you go and tell everybody. No, he gave him help. He surrounded him with people who were already familiar, already well grounded. They helped him. They had to be convinced to help him because they'd already heard of Saul, and Saul wasn't somebody that they necessarily felt a big need to risk their lives around. But Jesus got to them too and convinced them that no, this was the way to go. This was a person that they wanted to help. So yeah, God sent him a really big, bright bubble, and then to get introduced to each other. And he sent him to the other friends who I kind of call divine bubble wands. They were used to help breathe into Paul what Jesus wanted him to know and to do. They had to step up and created a person, or they created an environment for Jesus to work on this man and to work through this man, Paul. Jesus can reach all of us. Sometimes he uses very drastic measures. Sometimes it really is just constantly kind of being there and walking with you. Sometimes it just takes us to be blinded. Sometimes it just takes us to look around a little bit and go, oh, yeah, I see that now. Jesus can use you. He can use those around you. He may use you to help walk somebody else through life. And that's a pretty darn good thing to be doing. So, yeah, see what Jesus has to say to you. Pick up a Bible. If you don't have one, please let me know because I want to offer you one. I heard somebody say that they thought maybe that Christians were trying to keep it all to themselves because he had never had one offer him a Bible. Well, let me be the one to offer you a Bible. Please let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know, if something's happened to you, either subtly or big like this. What was your road to Damascus? Mine was kind of a long, gentle, I just always believed and I always understood. And I've got to say, sometimes I probably got just a little too comfortable in my belief and that Jesus would always be there. Didn't always do everything I was supposed to. And I knew it sometimes. But I also think he's not done using me. And I gotta say, it's probably the same for you. So I hope you have a really good night. I hope you have a good rest of the week. And again, let me know what you think. And spread the word. Jesus has a job for all of us. Thank you.